and welcome to the conversations about our upcoming 2015 North American Systemic Constellations Conference in San Diego. Yay! And today I have with me Yvonne Bryght, who is presenting at the conference on the afternoon of Friday the 13th. Her topic is Healing Dis-ease, when your clients have illness or disruptive body sensations with no discernible medical cause. Welcome, Yvonne.
Thank you very much, Linda.
Oh, I'm very excited about our talk. One of the questions everybody asks me to ask our speakers is, how do you describe constellations to a stranger?
The first thing I say is, do you have a few minutes? Because there's no way to describe this easily, right? So one of my favorite things that a client said in a workshop is, Yvonne, please stop trying to explain constellations. It's like cards. You can talk all night about how you play, but you really won't get it till you start the game. Could we just start the game, right? So that's constellations, like so many things, is completely experiential. If you can explain something in words effectively, it's probably not worth doing, right? You have to play the game. That's humanity in simplest form. But one of the things that I did a bit ago is ask my clients, how do you describe this to your friends? Because they bring their friends to me a lot. And what I noticed is that depended a lot on who they were. My favorite Native American client said, you get to heal your misbeliefs and you get to bring your ancestors with you. And I saw that reciprocation of, I'm healing me through my ancestors and I'm healing my ancestors through me. And for him, as a Native American man, very short sentences, right? He's such a simple thinker, unlike myself, right? I've got all these words. Just, you get to bring your ancestors with you. And the whole room stopped and had a moment. Very beautiful.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then my other favorite is a musician. She's a cellist, and you know how cello just puts you right in that heart-centered energy, right? We should actually have her start all my workshops. But she says she believes that every person has a pure ear for all things spiritual. And when you stand in the knowing field, when you stand in the circle of constellation, you add the magnificent multiplication of all those ears attuned to the purity of spirit. So those are my two favorite ways to say it. One of the things that I will always say to people is that we're always, as humans, operating in that disequilibrium between spirit and body, between our humanity and our spiritual highest, truest selves. And that what constellations does is bring into deepest harmony your choices and behaviors, which are very challenging, right? And your deepest, truest self. It brings you into a greater state of equilibrium in that way. One more. Simplest one I like is, I say to people, it'll take all the big rocks out of your river. If you want your river to flow, you need to remove some of the big rocks. And that's what constellations will do. You can do a lot of little rock work and therapy and all the other things that we do every day, meditation, you name it. But when you need to move those big rocks, constellations will get it done for you.
That's beautiful, Yvonne. I love it.
Thank you very much.
That's nice and simple. Yes, excellent. Yes, I liked your playing cards analogy also.
Yeah, I wish I could claim that one.
Yeah. Well, I use one that says, if you don't know what a bicycle looks like and you've never had to do the distinction of balance, it's very hard to describe.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm with you on that one. Okay. Well, what we're really after also today is hearing about your talk, Healing Dis-ease. Would you have a few minutes and tell us about your talk, please?
I'll do my best. You know, as you know, I mean, we're talking about the humanity of all us humans, right? We have this spiritual side of us, which I believe we can trust implicitly. And that is another thing that I say about constellations, that whatever work it gets done for you, whatever big rocks it moves out of your river, whatever healing it might do in your body, the most important thing it's going to do for you over time is it's going to put you in the best possible relationship of trust with your own knowing. It's going to calibrate your intuition like nothing else you will ever do, right? It's not going to make you more intuitive. You are plenty intuitive. I love it when people say, I'm very intuitive. Right? We're all very intuitive. What constellations will do is calibrate your trust relationship with your intuition and with that knowing field within you in a way that You don't hesitate with your yeses and your nos. You know where you're going. And that's what I love the best. What I love the most about that is the effect that it has on my relationship with body, with my health, with dis-ease, with ease, and with my physical well-being. In humanity, I like to say that the body is the backup singer for the spirit. If your spirit is saying to you, there's a big rock in your river, don't keep going, right? Adjust, whatever. And you're not listening. Even if your just spirit is saying, you have too much going on. Wait a minute, you have too much going on. Did I mention you have too much going on, right? That's the spirit, and we're not hearing. We're very busy. And so as the spirit says that, the body, the backup singers kick in, right? And they finally just say, you're done. I've had it. You're not doing it this way any longer, right? And apparently my body is a Yiddish woman because she always talks in this voice, right? So, but my body will say, no, you're not doing it. I'm stopping you. Some of our bodies pull that way harder than others. Some of it is inexplicable. Some of it makes perfect sense. If you follow Louise Hay and you've got, too many things on your plate, you're always going to get a cold. Because what does a cold do for you? It puts you down. It prevents you from doing any of those things, million plates you've got spinning or balls you've got tossing in the air. It stops you. So again, if you pay attention to the dis-ease in the body, it's like a tuning fork saying, right, 3 clicks ago, my spirit said, shift trajectory, stop, go here, don't go there, yes, no, that constant listening that we're doing with intuition, with that inner knowing field. When we miss that cue, the body, bless her heart, says, I got your back and you're not getting away with this. And here's what you need to know. So that can be anything from a cold to ache in my left shoulder. But it can also be very, very tragic. I've lost many people that I love, probably the most important people in my life, my father, my sister, my husband. And last year, one of my clients to true disease, true dis-ease. And here's what I want people to know about doing work on healing the body through constellations or any other method, right? From Western medicine to homeopathy, anytime you're working on the body, my favorite person to quote is Dorothy L. Sayers. She's best known as a mystery writer, but she's also highly respected in her time as a theologian and a scholar. And what she's talking about vocation when she says this. And what she's saying is you can either work for the community or you can work for the work itself. And when you work for the community, you are likely to falsify your work. But if you're working for the work itself, you will remain true. So in working with people and healing their disease, and forgive my chin quiver here because this touches me so deeply. If I'm working to heal my sister of the cancer that took her, I will falsify the work because my agenda for her health is in it. And my humanity will not let it be denied. But my spirit knew from the moment my sister took ill that she was not going to live. And I've practiced this enough that I did not attempt to change that trajectory. Now, what I did try to do was move every rock out of that river I could move. But I knew Tony was not going to stay with us longer than she did, right? So had I been working for the community, in this case, the community of her body's health, I would have demanded her healing. I couldn't do that. I had to work for the work itself. And what the work told me is, not this time. This is how this will go. But I do know that her passing was the sweetest, easiest, gentlest that it possibly could have been, because we did move those rocks out of her river. So same with a client who came to me specifically. She knew of me. In fact, she was a facilitator in this community, came to me, and here's the rub, right? Came to me to heal her. I don't have that kind of power. I cannot work for the community. I work for the work. So I can tell you other people, this client who came to me and said, I need you to heal me. I have a tumor here. And I was not able to do that, nor was it my aim. But I had another client come at a very similar time that said, I have a lump here that my doctor says there's no cause for. That lump, we were able to move. It was very simple. It was an ancestor who had, I won't even go into the details of it, but an ancestor who had experienced a trauma here And she was manifesting that in her body, but it wasn't medically showing up. We were able to move that in 1 or 2 constellation sessions. It was gone and it's never returned. So here's another client with an actual tumor right here, and I can't do anything to change that. We moved, the work moved, the knowing field moved some big rocks out of her river, but that doesn't mean that the disease that was in her body wasn't going to take its course, and it did. So that's the most important thing for facilitators who are working with people who seek healing, right? Think about Lourdes. Everybody's going. Everybody wants that miracle of healing and peace in their bodies. And if you're working for that, you will falsify the work. You will make promises that you cannot make, and you will hope for outcomes that you have no business planning on, right? You have to work for the work itself. We all know that. You set a constellation and you think you're going to set it this way and that way. We're going to set you and your mother. And the person you set as your mother turns out not to be the mother at all. I mean, in simplest terms, it turns out to be your Uncle Ned or, whatever. It's like you do not get to decide. You give it your best shot. And then the knowing field tells you what's actually going on, right? And so in the body, that's even magnified because our desire for help in the body is so strong, both in our own bodies, which we love because they are home for our length of stay on the planet. And that is, side note, but very important side note, that is more what I'm working on when I'm working with a person's body and dis-ease in the body, is I'm working to restore that sensation of home in here, not home out here. The sensation of I am home. This body is home for the length of time that I have on the planet, whatever that looks like. And it does what it will with us, and we can't guide or direct it. My friend Jack, who I met at the last US Systemic Conference, we were looking at Francesca Mason-Boring's work one day. We're watching her work, and we're sitting back in awe, right? And I say to Jack, I know I'm good at this. I know you're good at this, but why is she so good at this? And we went to bed that night, right? And we'd get back together for breakfast the next morning, and Jack says, I figured it out. When you and I are working, we're in service to the field. Francesca is never not in service to the field. She is always in service to spirit. Even standing in a conversation in the lobby or going to lunch, she appears to be, by our tiny selves watching her magnificence, consistently, if not constantly, in service to spirit. And Jack and I became aware that he and I will move in and out of that. And so when you're working with a person's health, when you're working with body, when you're working with home, that consistency of service to spirit is more important than any other technique or skill you can possibly imagine or manage or learn, right? It's like, that's all it is. That's all there is. And what I love about that calibration of my own spirit every single time I stand in constellation is I get clearer and clearer about that. About it does not matter what I know. It does not matter what I do. It matters where I'm sourced. And when I am in service to spirit, when that is my source, I can do no harm. And since we're talking about physical health, that is, rule number 1, do no harm. So there's that whole, it's almost a disclaimer, but it's also just a spiritual reality that we cannot direct the flow. We can find it, we can remove the rocks, but we can't push the river, as it were, with regard to healing. That's a lot of talk, right? So I can give you part 2, unless you have a question.
No, I'm fascinated. Keep going.
Okay. So once you have that clear in yourself, and it's like important to get that clear with your client who's coming and saying, I have a tumor, can you heal me? Which no, I cannot. Doing body work, as it were, healing work, and I don't even use that term with it, with clients, I'll use more of a reference to a medical intuitive than a healer, always. And so just like the constellation work is that group ear attuned to spirit, the constellation work around physical healing is a group medical intuitive, right? It's like going to a medical intuitive, but you've got that amazing safety and magnification of the knowing field and the group itself. That's one of my favorite things I've ever heard Bert Hellinger explain. I believe it was in one of his books. I don't remember which, but I had asked, I've been a group therapist all my professional life. And I was always asking my mentor, why can't I get someone in an individual session to the depth of moving energy, changing what I call cellular memory, which back to the reference to the body, when we're shifting cellular memory, that's the big rocks, right? That's what Constellation does in the body. And so I was always asking my mentor, why can't I get people there in individuals, thinking I lack a skill? I can get them there in group. Why can't I get them there in individual sessions? And she couldn't tell me. And then I read Hellinger's book. And what he says is there's a safety when humans gather in groups. Now, side note for me is all my clients will say, oh no, I can't do groups. It's just too frightening, right? It's too scary. But the deeper truth, the cellular truth is, while your ego mind is saying it's too scary, I can't be revealed in front of a group of people, what your body and your cellular knowing and your spirit are more aware of is that you actually feel safer. I think of it like a wolf pack, right? The one who's howling, that wolf that's howling out there on the mountains, that's the lone wolf. And he's not howling for howling's sake. He's looking for pack. He wants pack, right? Because in pack is safety. And we humans are pack by nature. We're pack animals, right? So that safety gets created in the group, even though you come and your ego mind is afraid that people will see. As soon as you're in that group and you're standing in that heart energy of the knowing field, that safety hits and you will go deeper than you can ever go in personal or individual or dual work. I have 2 clients who were in group together. And since I don't do that kind of group anymore because it's a lot to do that consistently, they will book sessions back to back. So they get a 2-hour block for the 2 of them, and they create this little mini group together. And constellations wise, I've never seen 2 people be able to work for each other the way these 2 do. But they do that because they can get 10 times the work out of that session of the 3 of us than they can out of a session of the 2 of us. Just that little bit of extra safety. And then see too, what I think is so cool is they were in group together very consistently for years. So that pack is behind them, just like your ancestors are your pack. When that's behind you, that safety just settles in and you're there. I have to tell you a quick story because it cracks me up. And then I'll talk about medical intuition. You stop me when we run out of time. I get going on this stuff.
Stop you. This is cool.
Right? Okay. I have a client, and this is on my other topic, right? Sacred sexuality is my other passion, right? I'm writing a book on sacred sexuality. We'll have a client, big man, kind of a nerdy, geeky sweetie, right? I just love him. But, just that guy, right? Nerdy, geeky, huge guy. And every time we'd be sitting in individuals, he could never handle group work. He's very tender. I would notice that he just couldn't help himself. He's constantly looking at my breasts, right? It's like looking at my breasts. I was careful what I would wear on the days he would come to not activate that. With any other client, I would have said, I noticed you're looking at my breasts, right? I mean, I don't hesitate. We would have gone there. But he's so tender. I know I can't do it. So you know what I started doing? As soon as that would happen, oh, and this is the funny part, and I hope he never watches this because he will recognize himself. When he would catch himself, he knew he was doing it, right? Staring at my breast, so he would squint his eyes, as if I wouldn't notice if he squinted his eyes, right? So he's staring at my breast, so all I do is I pull in my father, who has passed. I pull in my grandfather, I pull in my great-grandfather, pull in my mother's father, I pull in my men, I pull in my ancestors, and I don't change a single thing but my awareness of my male pack behind me, and it stops like that. You do not look at a woman's breasts when she's standing in a room of the men of her family. You don't do it, right? If I'm standing with my father, my grandfather, my uncles, nobody's looking like that. He stops instantly. And he wasn't offensive or awful. He just couldn't help himself, right? So that's all I did was pull in my ancestors, and it stopped immediately. Hardly ever happened again, but on the rare occasion when it does, it just reminds me, and I pull in my men, I pull in my boys, and he stops. And that's the beauty and the safety of pack. I get to walk in the safety of my pack at all times, and that's my ancestors. And I have multiple packs, but my male ancestors is a powerful thing. So then back to the medical intuitive side. That's basically what you're looking at. And so then, and this is the part that I love to play in, is that there's probably, I've got a list here of 8 to 12 different ways we can go at that. You know, one is the shamanic way of soul retrieval. Doing that in constellations is very powerful. My friend David is a shamanic practitioner and will often combine our cosmologies, as he calls it, to get the job done. And so using that piece where my body is ill, so there's a piece of my soul that needs to come home, back to the I am home part, is a way to look at it. There's an old psychological method, and I hope I get his name right. A man named Arnie Pop developed something he called pain maker. Here's me, and here's the pain maker. And we let the pain maker take a representative, and we have that conversation. That's another way to do it. And I'll often have the client stand in their own constellation when that happens, and we switch back and forth, where I'm me, and then I'm the pain, or the pain maker, and we switch it back and forth. That's very powerful work. That was work we were doing, of course, before we found constellations, but then you add the power of the representative role and knowing field, and it's pretty amazing. One of my favorites when somebody is in disease is to, and I do this pretty organically, I literally will, you know, brief sentence on what the illness we're looking at is, and then I let the group choose if they have a place. I call that a community constellation, where I basically say to the circle, if you have a place here in the knowing field, find your spot. And when you're on your spot, tell me what you know about who or what you might be. And I do this, and it will inevitably, when someone's dealing with body health, show up to be parts of them, right? I'm the part that carries the burden on the shoulder that won't stop being in pain. I'm the part that says, go, go, do, do. I'm the part that says, I just want to lay here and eat grapes, right? And these parts, and this gets kind of funny, literally will battle it out. But it's constellations. So we're not battling to see who wins. We're battling to see what the configuration is where everybody gets to have their way. Everybody gets what they need. Nobody gets marginalized, right? So think bigger picture, think the family. We don't get to pretend Uncle Pedophile didn't exist. We have to somehow keep him in the family. And so same thing, if I have a part of me that is rogue, I don't get to cut it off, because that's what people want to do, right? How do I get rid of this? No, how do you bring that home? And how do you let this part come home and exist with this part, which would appear to be in complete opposition to each other? But in fact, they are the perfect creation of truth, because that's, you know, any truth with a capital T on earth is always going to be that paradoxical existence in concert of two things that look like it's, you know, two bulldogs battling in a sack, but they're brothers. So figuring that out in the body is way fun. Oh my gosh. And I can do it all day long, right? And as you can see, I can talk about it all day long.
Yes.
And let me finish with this. And my favorite one lately to do, there's a Hawaiian prayer method of healing called Ho'oponopono. Very simple, but very deep, very complex. And Ho'oponopono on the outside sounds like you saying to this person you're asking for new connection with, thank you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. Doing this with the part of your body that is in dis-ease is a very, very powerful prayer. Doing it in constellations, using the safety and the benefit of the pack, is pretty amazing.
Oh, Yvonne, this has been fascinating. I am so happy we got together. Oh my gosh. Yes, we're a little over, but it's worth it.
Yeah, sorry. And, you know, cut it as much as you like. Like I said, I could keep talking because I love this stuff. But thank you so much, Linda.
Oh, thank you. So I just want to remind everyone, Yvonne's talk is Friday the 13th, Healing Dis-ease. When your clients have illness or disruptive body sensations with no discernible medical cause. I look forward to meeting you in person in November.
Thank you very much.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.